If you need more context, please look at the previous parts.
Yeah, nothing has changed. They've been, like I said, they've been playing the long game.
And the long game, basically, to paraphrase, is the communists, and they think MLK is apparently communist because he recognized that systemic racism, at least back then, we could all agree systemic racism was a real thing. This documentary says no, apparently.
Whenever anybody prepares for a revolutionary
Documentary.
warfare, you concentrate on the major enemy. We're not strong enough to fight.
As early as 1928, the communists declared that the racial differences among our people constituted the weakest and most vulnerable point in our social fabric.
Okay, that is true. Disclaimer, there'll be racial slurs. Sorry. I should have said, I'm sorry, I did. I was like, whoa, okay, well, I'm not monetized, so I should be fine anyways, but I just want to say, just to tell you guys that, sorry. Heads up! Oh, you already know. Sorry. But, I'll say it like this, maybe, just maybe, just because somebody of an ideology that you don't like or you think that's bad, if not evil, because there's somewhat of a difference. Bad is like everybody does bad, but evil is like you're doing bad and you like it or stuff like that. Go with counterpoints. I like his definition of evil. I think it's interesting how he does it. He's very specific type of guy. I might not agree with everything that he says, but it's like 80-20, basically 80% agree, 20% disagree. Both of those things are important. But point is, basically, I think he uses this example. So basically, as an example, if Hitler said it was good to drink water, does that mean we should stop drinking water? No, it is good to drink water. That doesn't mean Hitler's good. Same thing here. Just because the communists back then might have said what was going on and it was true, doesn't mean that therefore that was communism. It's just that the communists said something right there. Communism's still bad, if not evil, to an extent, especially when it's used, as we see throughout history, and if I'm correct, now, in governments. I think like Venezuela, if I'm correct, to an extent. So, okay, they got that one thing right. That doesn't mean, therefore, that's a communist thing. That just means that the communists got something right. If it were said to drink water, I'm gonna drink water, not because he said, but because it's just true. It's good to drink water. Like, that's how you gotta see
By
this.
constantly probing and straining at this one spot, they calculated that eventually the cloth could be torn apart, and that Americans could be divided, weakened, and perhaps even set against each other in open combat.
I don't know if the communists wanted that there in America, but again, like, oh, like,
So on this
dun
channel,
dun
I've
dun.
spoken extensively about Manning Johnson. I always recommend his book, Color, Communism, and Common Sense. This opened my eyes, and this sort of started to lead me to put together the puzzle pieces when I was trying to understand what the true agenda behind Black Lives Matter was. So I recommend everyone check this out. It's really, really cheap, very quick.
I don't know Olaf Benny Johnson. I think I've heard of him before. I don't know, ultimately. So, yeah, I guess not like a shell pitch or whatever, but yeah, if you want to see different perspectives on things, look at Benny Johnson. I think there's a different Benny Johnson. That also like Benny Johnson. Isn't he a white person who's kind of weird and right wing, if not fascist? Oh no, this is a different Benny Johnson. It's the black one. But they both are bad. See, race doesn't discriminate when it comes to bad ideas necessarily. It just depends again. Give it a read, give it a whirl.
And yeah, so as I was saying earlier, the civil rights movement, as we know it, is not what you think it is.
Yeah, they think it was communist and it was bad. Yeah, no, the civil rights movement was good, by the way. Obviously, were there some communists like in favor of it? Sure. Again, the Hitler drinking water thing. Just because they might have been on certain sides that were good in history doesn't mean communism is good, or the communists were doing like them themselves were doing good things. They were just working with something that was good. I don't. That's just how it is. You're making a mountain of a molehill, Gothix.
And yeah. Oh man, if you and it ties into the clip that we just showed with Manning Johnson and how some things were going on.
Oh, Manning Johnson, not Benny. I thought you said Benny Johnson. That's why I was like, wait, I've heard of him, but he's not black. He's not a black person.
In the
Okay,
civil
Manny
rights
Johnson.
movement, that may be not what it seems. So, let me just play this.
I would say this. Are there some things in the civil rights movement that we don't know of, or we do know now because it's been discovered or exposed or revealed? Possibly. The movement wasn't perfect. I'm not saying that. It might have had some ties with communists, but like I said, it's the Hitler drinking water thing. Like, yeah, maybe, but that doesn't mean therefore it was communistic. It was cultural Marxism, which is an anti-Semitic dog whistle most of the time. Though I understand most people, I think most right-wingers, when they say that, are not trying to be anti-Semitic, but its roots and how it's being still used now. So I'm not using the argument. What was it? I don't think it's called origin fallacy. I think it's called fallacy of origin. I think, yeah, origin fallacy. I'm not using the origin fallacy because it's still being used as an anti-Semitic dog whistle. Since it's still being used, I'm just trying to educate people. Right-wingers, black people who are right-wing, don't use that because it is still used today. So I'm not doing a fallacy here. It's still used today for anti-Semites, for cultural Marxism, basically the Jewry. That's the Nazi version of it, of institutions and things of that nature. Just be careful of that. You can say cultural wokeism. I think, I disagree with you, but at least your wording is not rooted in still being used as anti-Semitic bile, anti-Semitic dog whistle, if you will.
And it will speak for itself.
It's essentially based on guerrilla warfare principles, which is you're up against a far more powerful enemy, and you have a very small little army, and you're trying to figure out what this little army that maybe at best is like a flea bite. How do you kill an elephant with flea bites?
We start with the intersection of the Black and Latino community as a strategic alliance that's central to building a broader multiracial left.
This is the father of Black Lives.
Oh no, multiracial people of different skin. Oh no. Here's the thing. Most of the time with the left, it is rooted in the socialist critiques and solutions of communism by Karl Marx, the Communist Manifesto. Their problems are real, but their solutions are usually dog trash, or their solutions can be used quite quickly for bad. DEI, the ideal of DEI is qualified people, but they're diverse qualified people, so you can get, just in a business standpoint, the most money in a sensible way, but also just the most experience. Basically, if I am making a book about ancient Africa, I would get an expert, and I wouldn't care their skin color, but especially if they're from Africa, an expert. First thing, very important. First, an expert, but also, this is kind of where DEI comes in, not necessarily racist, but more of just kind of looking at the obvious to an extent. Not only an expert, but an expert who's also African, with African descent, things of that nature, might give me even more of an insight of ancient Africa than just an expert who might be white. Respectfully. It's not really race, in a sense, but in that sense, it's race, but it's not racist. It's more of, like, if I was doing ancient Ireland, I would get not just an expert, but also an expert whose ancestry and who's also just straight up Irish, so they can maybe give me even more of glimpse of ancient Ireland because they are also Irish. They would definitely also know that. They won't just research it, they know it because of living it. Like, hey, do this, not that. Hey, this is actually a stereotype. We don't really do that. Things of that nature. That would just make sense. And I think it would just help along. But I do agree some initiatives of DEI have made it more of segregation. It's more of actually their rights, not necessarily their expertise. That has happened to an extent. And it's kind of like the same thing with affirmative action. It had good intentions, but I don't think we need it as much as we needed it back then when it was first instituted. So with that, you gotta be careful here with the at this point, I call it propaganda. At this point, it is propaganda. Trust me. Look at the previous parts before this. Trust me, you'll understand what I mean. And so with that, I think they're trying to say all of it's bad or something like that, or what this person's saying might be like, actually, hey, that's good. Basically, what it's trying to say is there should be a coalition of black people and Hispanic people because we share somewhat similar struggles, and that makes sense. It should be for this anybody, including white people, because some white people also might go through the same struggles, because some might have been in predominantly black neighborhoods, and I already talked about why there's gangs and things of that nature in the previous parts. The point is, that's not bad, but maybe how they're trying to implement it, or maybe there are other ideas of how to handle it, are dog trash. That's how they handle this, not what they're about to do, which I'm assuming is not going to be good.
Matter.
Just a hunch.
Black trans women who have been murdered.
To the extent that people are involved, these are useful.
Recognizing black trans people are persecuted? Well, they're useful idiots, apparently.
Part of multiracial left.
This is the father of Black Lives Matter.
Of the black trans women who have been murdered.
To the extent that black people are involved, these are useful idiots. These are people who are fronts to care.
Yeah, but that's not the civil rights movement. That's BLM. Big on Tree Mansion. We all know that the organization's not so good.
Carry out the agenda of white Marxists.
If we don't have a base in the black and Latino community, we can't branch out. You got to have a strategy, and that's at least my strategy. We don't believe that majority white organizations can be transformative organizations.
Black Lives Matter?
Well, that's, I think, maybe a little bit racist, not bad. The majority white organizations can't be transformative. I think they can. Like, I'm not, against that, but if I would try to be charitable a little bit, I guess what he's trying to say is that more of a, black organization or more predominantly black organization would understand more about the struggles of black people, which makes sense, but I think how he's wording it and maybe his fruits and his actions, you gotta look at that as well. It's a Christian, obviously, you gotta look at people's fruits. Can't just say stuff and believe you got what they're doing, what's their fruits. It might not be good, it might be, dog trash.
It's a white-run organization.
So what you just heard was the brains behind the Black Lives Matter movement. So while everyone was out shouting BLM, say his name and all this stuff, this guy was in the background pulling the puppet strings. This is a white communist that is using black people as useful idiots. And as you just heard...
And I think to an extent I can see that. White virginity, yeah, I can definitely see that point of view, and it might be true to an extent. I don't think he's using it for nefarious reasons, but nobody thinks they're doing bad or evil stuff. He didn't think he was a bad guy. He didn't think he was evil or nefarious. He thought he was just trying to save his country from what he saw, the jewelry of influence around the world. So he answered the Jewish question. It was still bad, obviously. Unlike Nick Fuentes, I can say, yeah, it's bad. I like Kanye West. I don't like Hitler. Okay? I hate the stuff that he did. Yeah. I don't like the guy. I think you can hate him in a sense, That's another time there of language and things of that nature, but boy, it is. Yeah. Nobody thinks their intentions are bad. Destruction was paved by good intentions, but I don't know the man, so Gothix might be right here. He might just be the puppet master here. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the truth either. I wouldn't.
They needed a Latino and black things. This is a white communist that is using black people as useful idiots. And as you just heard, they needed a Latino and black base to get it started. Otherwise, they wouldn't have got any traction. And this actually makes sense because if we consider what we talked.
Yeah, and that could be used for bad reasons. But also, again, I think my explanation might have been his explanation, but again, it could be wrong here. I don't know.
But earlier, if a lot of society is already worshiping themselves, worshiping their identity or their skin color, they're going to be more likely to follow a movement that is headed by other people that share that same attribute. So if I'm obsessed with myself being a black woman, I'm going to naturally go to organizations that are headed by black women.
Or maybe since I care about the struggles of black women, I would find organizations that might be run by black women because I think they would obviously understand more of the struggles of black women than a white woman or a white man or a black man. That's just makes sense. That's like kind of common sense in a sense, which, yeah, I already thought about what is common sense? Alright, I get that. I already did that with comments from me this week. But the point I'm trying to say is basically, well, yeah, that's what you would do. If I want to help regarding the persecution of Christians and how to help them out when they're being actually persecuted in other countries, I would go to a Christian organization with that. I want to go to an atheist organization about that. Yeah.
It's not going to work if it's a bunch of white people because everything is black excellence, right? So,
okay, no. Black excellence does not mean that. I know exactly what black excellence means. It means that your black daughter or son did the thing that you could have do, which is maybe graduate from college, or they planted the seed of excellence because they didn't have excellence back then for your parents or grandparents, and so they're proud of that. That's black excellence. That's the black doctors and lawyers and things of that nature that could have not happened over 60 years ago. That's black excellence, not the trash that respectfully that Gothix did. I almost said Michael Knowles, but I think they're quite similar. She should work for the Daily Wire, who knows? But I think she might be too radical for them. It's weird. That is a weird pattern for a Daily Wire there. It's like, you invite radicalism, but yet you're firing all the radicals. What do you expect was gonna happen, DW? Not the good one, the bad one. The Daily Wire, not the other DW.
That's where the term useful idiot comes from, is when you get people that are obsessed with superficial things, you can move them like chess pieces without them even knowing it. They have no idea.
And I think, to an extent, the Christian nationalist part of this propaganda is doing the same thing to Gothix. Respectfully, Gothix, you don't have to be, you might be a useful idiot. In a sense, because what they're trying to do is seems like, based on the documentary itself, wants to go back to a time where people were basically, essentially, forced, mandated to do something that they don't need to do, which would be publicly, like just everybody doing it with the Pledge of Allegiance, pray or read the scriptures, things of that nature, which you can do in public schools. I already talked about that in the previous parts. Point is, you just can't force anybody else to. Because that makes sense, the separation between church and state, whether you like it or not. It's in the Constitution. It's kind of the first thing, actually.
That they are a part of a much... Get people that are obsessed with superficial things, you can move them like chess pieces without them even knowing it. They have no idea that they are a part of a much larger game that's at play, and what's at play is basically taking over America, taking over the entire world.
like the Christian nationalists are trying to do, and their seven heads, like, yeah, seven heads mandate. They call it the Seven Mountains mandate, but if you look at Revelation, I'm not saying it's the exact same thing, but it talks about the beast, I think also the harlot, and the kings, and the seven mountains, and the seven, I think, heads of the beast. It's interesting in how they ruled the earth in a sense, like the Seven Mountains mandate is trying to do. I'm just saying, I think that. I'm just saying, point is, it's not Christian Seven Mountains mandate. It's not. It could be Antichrist, maybe, or Antichrist could use it. Possibly, like Christian nationalism uses religious symbols to say that they're Christian, but if you look at their fruits, look at their ideology, they are not. They're anti-Christian. It's not anti-Christ. I talked a lot more about that in my channel, anyways. Or I will later on, or a lot of other people have, like Michael Jones, Aspiring Philosophy, and New Evangelical. So, though I don't think New Evangelical is a Christian necessarily, I just have to look more of him. Michael Jones, Aspiring Philosophy is definitely a Christian, though I might disagree with some of his things I think might not be so Christian, but that's neither here nor there. Point is, I think the actual big bad here is Christian nationalism, not really communism. That's kind of, it's still somewhat of a threat, but I think Christian nationalism, especially now, and especially in America, is a more bigger fish right now than the communists. You got Zoran, but Zoran I don't think is a communist. He's just not. And I think what he wants to do is fine, just as long as it's not national. Then it becomes communist. That's when it becomes bad.
With Marxist ideas, getting rid of God and making us all slaves to the government, essentially. So this is why.
Yeah, I would say communists, I wouldn't say want that in a sense, but I think it usually leads to that throughout history. So it's never been done, folks. It's been done. It has cost millions and millions of lives.
I tell people, even if you are not a believer in God, you need to be very careful about saying that God is nonsense or.
No, you don't have to. No, don't believe in the lies and propaganda of this. If you don't believe in God, it's like, yeah, I think God is nonsense. We have freedom of speech. Because I think Gothix is doing what a lot of conspiracy theorists do, is connect dots that aren't actually there and try to make I guess, the blunt. Dylan Burns said it. It's like a Tom Clancy novel, where basically what conspiracy theorists usually do is how the truth is this is just this. It's chaotic a little bit, but they want it to be ordered or something more nefarious, or something that is more nefarious. They're like, oh no, that's just counterpoints. Watched a little bit of counterpoints, or a lot of counterpoints conspiracy theory video, which I watched fully, and basically, it seems like for all conspiracy theorists is that they can't handle a chaotic world, so everything has to be ordered. Even though, let's be real, it is chaotic. It is. And that's a Christian perspective to it. There is a big spiritual war behind all the chaos in a sense of a way, but it was chaotic before, then God still let there be light, and then there was light, then the fall happened, and it was chaotic again. And we see that, especially in the Old Testament, it's quite chaotic.
God is, or you need to be very careful about saying that God is nonsense or God is or Christianity is a cult. If you don't believe in something, then continue not believing in.
Yeah, and I think I agree with that, but I think she's trying to say somehow don't really put that into practice. I don't know. Oh, we'll see. But yes, Christianity is not a cult. You can stop saying that. You can't keep saying it. I wouldn't make a law if you're not saying it. That's actually anti-free speech. Not a private company saying you can't say Christianity is a cult. I think that would be stupid. They can't do that. I don't like X, Twitter, but they can do what they need to do and want to do, just as long as they don't, as long as they're consistent, it just depends, but ultimately they can do what they want to an extent, obviously. 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 Obviously.
Something. You don't have to convince anyone saying that God is nonsense or God is or Christianity is a cult. If you don't believe in something, then continue not believing in something. You don't have to convince anyone. Because as we saw in the earlier footage, there is a drastic difference from how society was when more people centered their lives around God as opposed to how everything is right now. And so I realized that this conversation in regards to spirituality and Jesus and Christianity might be a little bit weird for some people. Trust me, I used to be agnostic and I used to be like, every time people were talk about God around me. But we cannot have honest dialogue about communism and Marxism, and we can't truly understand what's happening in our society without talking about this topic.
To an extent, yes, but I think you might not like what it talks about. Religion can be bad. It has been bad. The scandals are real. Christian nationalism is on the rise. But communism is so much anti-Christian to where they did very bad stuff to it. And it's not good to have that here in the States. We don't want a extreme here, secularized nation or anti-Christian nation or non-religious or anti-religious via religion is banned nation to where we got what China has now. Secularism is fine. It is your best friend. It's the best of both worlds. It lets Christians do their stuff and it lets non-Christians do their stuff. The government's an even playing field and they touch nothing about religion unless if religion touches the law. Now, whether justified or not, they can do what they want there, to an extent. Like, if there's a big scandal in the church, I think the government has a right to crack down on that church. The church should have cracked down on itself before that, but if push comes to shove, since we as Christians are not doing what we're supposed to do, that's going to happen. Plain and simple. You know what I'm saying? And so with that, you won't have Iran, Iraq, especially Afghanistan, and Russia, theocracies. So you get the best of both worlds. You don't get China, you don't get Afghanistan, basically.
Because it is a huge about communism and Marxism, and we can't truly understand what's happening in our society without talking about this topic, because it is a huge part of this topic. It is a big missing piece of the puzzle, and if you just go around it, you're never going to be able to get the full image of what's happening. So I hope you...
It's not the whole thing, let's be honest here, but it is partially part of it that, we do need to address.
Hey guys, how you doing? My name is Ron Dumas, and I'm here to give you one of the greatest giveaways of your lifetime. Are you guys ready? Did you enjoy that Uncle Tom review? Well,
no, I didn't. I think it was terrible.
Lucky for you, we're giving away 2 copies of Uncle Tom Part 2 on DVD.
No. There's a reason why it was straight to DVD.
I'll also throw in a limited edition Democrats kneeling and kente cloths for you to...
But no, not really. No, that's cringe. Why you do this to me? Why was I getting this from YouTube? Why did I have this ad?
Hang on your fireplace mantle. That's right, folks. This can be yours for the low, low price of free. All you have to do is comment below the...
There makes sense. It is free. It makes sense because, trust me, nobody would think this is worth anything. So I do agree with that. Man,
the most ridiculous thing that you've heard keeps black people from succeeding. What is it? Is it white supremacy? Is it pancake syrup?
No, but there's a reason why that was changed, because that makes sense. Wait, are you for racism? What? Huh?
Is it rice? Is it the ketchup bottle? Is the ketchup bottle the precedent?
I don't know, man. Wait, Charlie Kirk said the ketchup was woke, so I don't even know at this point. Who was even from that? I don't care.
Now, what is it exactly? Let me know in the comments below and I will find the most ridiculous answer to give away a copy of this.
Oh, like that?
Like you know how the end of infomercials are like, call 1888 to get, and usually they have something running in the background.
You could even afford that. I mean, yeah. I mean, you're getting something for free. I mean, you get what you give it.
Yeah. I mean, you could do that, or you can do like you point your finger, act now. Oh, that looked freaky. Yeah.
Have this for Patreon bloopers, but not the video. Come on, Gothix. Why are you doing this? What's going on here? Stop it. Get some help.
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah, that. Oh no. Yeah, that's weird. Stop it.
That was whatever that was. So yeah, I think she made a movie. I think that's what that is. I don't care at this point. Well, what we should care is figure out the truth, whatever it may be. Hey, real quick, if you want to dedicate your life to Christ, aka get saved, or if you're a backslider and want to rededicate your life to Christ, or if you want the baptism of the Holy Spirit with the evidence of speaking with tongues, those prayers are in the description down below.